The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, they are blocking the Fearless Fund from awarding $20,000 grants to businesses owned by black women. The case is being litigated. Conservative activist Ed Blum claimed that the grant program is likely racial discriminatory. The appeals court, in a 2-1 decision, disagreed with the federal judge who ruled in September that the lawsuit was unlikely to prevail on First Amendment grounds. The Atlanta firm was working to boost scarce venture capital funding for black women. The ruling could have sweeping implications for race-based initiatives in the private sector. What we have here, Julian, on this particular issue here, and this was interesting. What these white conservatives are doing is they're using the 1866 Civil Rights Act, which was meant to benefit black folks. They're using this, they're weaponizing this against black people.
Well, it's highly ironic that they would be doing this to use something that empowered us to disempower us. It's highly ironic. The other piece of this is these people are so ahistoric, they do not get it. In other words, why do you need a fearless fund? Because black women got less than 1% of the venture capital dollars that were available. Why was that? Not because their proposals were faulty, but because of structural discrimination. So they're denying discrimination and then claiming discrimination against white people. Now, they're not saying that a fund that benefits women, let's say, would be discriminatory. They're not saying that a college scholarship that says for Irish descendants will be discriminatory. Their anti-blackness reeks. It actually reeks of their hate of black people. And Roland, you've written about it in your book, White Fear, and many of us have been looking at this. But the bottom line is we can just go back to the end of Reconstruction. Whenever black people make gains, white people are sitting in the cut, prepared to take them back. So we're seeing here some young black women, amazing sisters, who said, we want to empower some black women entrepreneurs. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is these hateful, evil, ignorant, ahistorical white people are like, oh, but that's discriminatory. As if our whole existence in this country has not been discriminatory.
Renita?
Yeah, so this is just a preliminary injunction. So I think that's important for everybody to realize is that basically before anything has really gone to court, a court has basically made a preliminary ruling. So the fight is not over. And so, folks, don't give up. The other thing that I think is important to look at with this is, like Dr. Malveaux said, I'll take it a step further. This is not the only type of organization that exists like this to specifically lift up communities that are consistently overlooked. Sometimes it's funds to support women. In this case, it's funds to support black women, and that is always looked at as a First Amendment sort of way of using your voice is by giving money to certain groups. And so I do hope that eventually the Fearless Fund will prevail in court because there has not been a ruling like this that specifically says that this is not freedom of speech for at least 150 years. So this is a preliminary injunction, and I'm hoping that the final decision that we'll see will actually reflect that this is a this is a First Amendment right for the Fearless Fund to operate.
McConnell?
Look, Melinda French Gates just decided that she's going to give over $1 billion to support organizations that help with the advancement of women, including in organizations that centering around I think it's called the American Center for Men for Boys or something like that, to help boys, become better and stronger so that they don't, hurt women in many particular ways. I don't see Blum and them coming out against her. Why? Because she's rich and powerful and influential. These guys are using their influence in the same way that they did to go against affirmative action to target smaller groups that just don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to put up an instant block. And so now the Fearless Fund has to spend more resources in court, more time on lawyers, and they're going to do what they can to try to break this organization. And so, but they are very selective. And so you're going against race, but if you can get a twofer, go against one that targets race as well as women, then this is the conservative dream as it relates to people like Blum. And so we have to continue to raise awareness about this. We need to continue to fight for this. And many more organizations and individuals who are in our community and have resources need to take the same type of that Melinda French Gates has taken in terms of using your money and philanthropy to help build some of these organizations as well, so that one day we wouldn't even need a Fearless Fund. But until then, we have to keep fighting to make sure that the Fearless Fund can keep its doors open and that other organizations that do the same thing are not going to be sent into oblivion by organizations and people like Blum and the Russos of the world.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the money! Take back the money! Take back the money! Take back the money!
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.